Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now we are on the cloud banking panel discussion at the big BFSI Future Tech Show, wherein we're looking at talking about cloud banking, cloud and data centers taking the center stage. Cloud banking is definitely helping shape the future of financial services and digital transformation, which is crucial for the successful cloud adoption. Well, we're looking at talking about the future of data center and cloud, public versus hybrid versus multi-cloud, leveraging cloud as an analytics platform for real-time customer insights and reporting, APIs and microservices, need for cloud data protection systems, and challenges for moving into cloud. Well, we're elated to be joined by our eminent panelists on the screen. Well, first up, we've got Shiju Rawther, the Chief Information and Technology Officer, Care Ratings Limited. Shiju is a technology leader with strong business acumen with 2 decades of vast experience in major operating tenets of driving digital transformation through thought leadership, innovation, analytics, and delivering value to stakeholders. Well, also joining us is Kirti Patil, Joint President and Chief Technology Officer, Kotak Mahindra Life Insurance Company Limited. Kirti, an early adopter of emerging technologies, and she's somebody who spearheads Kotak Mahindra's technology and digital functions. Thank you so much, Ms. Patil, for joining us today.
My pleasure, Bhavna.
Also, we have Amit Saxena, Global Deputy Chief Technology Officer, SBI. Amit is a business and a tech leader with over 2 decades of expertise in conceptualizing and architecting strategic transformation projects. He's also led transforming digital banking innovations for customer-centric journeys. Thank you so much, Mr. Saxena, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Bhavna. It's a pleasure.
Also joining us is Rajesh, Awasthi, Global Head of Cloud and MHS, Tata Communications Limited. Rajesh has over 25 plus years of experience in technology management encompassing sales, product management, technical pre-sales, and IT infrastructure services for multinational enterprises. Thank you so much, Mr. Awasthi, for joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
And we also have joining us is Dr. Suresh A. Shan, the Head Innovation and Future Technologies, Business Information Technology Solutions, Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services Limited. Suresh is living and building the dreams of industry versus academics, bridging down the technology understanding gaps, making a cultural difference to the society. In the last 9 years, he's conducted 732 academic leadership programs and team building programs across India as well as SAARC and other countries. Thank you so much, Dr. Shan, for joining us today.
Thanks a ton. It's my pleasure.
Honor to have you, sir. Also joining us in this incredible panel discussion, introducing now all of you to the moderator of this discussion, which is Murari Sridharan, Chief Technology Officer, Bank Bazaar. A confessed arbiter of crisis with a background of developing and implementing crucial high-performance initiatives successfully and on tight deadlines. Murari is somebody who leads the technology initiatives pioneered by bankbazaar.com, such as the contactless application process to the next level. Thank you so much, Murari, for joining us today and being the moderator for the panel discussion.
Thank you, Bhavna.
So ladies and gentlemen, with this, we've got our incredible panelists on your screen. With this, I'd now like to pass on the live baton to Murari to take it forth with this panel. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. So let me start out with the following introduction, and then there's a bunch of questions that we are eager to discuss, right? So companies today are increasingly aware of the multiple benefits of cloud computing, whether it's private, public, hybrid, or any kind of combination, right? Now, depending on the kind of company you are, the benefits are different, the challenges to migrate are different, and the use cases to consider are different as well, right? However, it's critical to not get caught in the hype, right? While the benefits are substantial, there's a lot of key questions to consider, and doing the homework right at the beginning and having a clear plan, right, is going to go a long way for companies to reap the benefits, right? So that's really what we are here to discuss with our expert panel, right? So I want to start out with this whole, having a clear business objective and a strategy, right? Today, there are many reasons for people to migrate to the cloud. However, your business strategy, your cloud, let me bring in Kirti first to comment on, how should people think about this migration, and how does the whole, business strategy fit into your...
Thank you so much, Murari. I think though we are all technologists, right? When we work for organizations in the BFSI, it's not about the technology that we build, but it is the business problem that we are trying to solve. So it is the business goal, business problem, business strategy that comes first in anything that we do. And that is equally true for the cloud as well. So you rightly mentioned it's a hype. We don't go by the hype, right? We want to, if we want to go to the cloud, there has to be a solid business reason. And I would like to talk about three things, okay? Three reasons why one would want to go to the cloud. One is the go-to-market time, because everybody knows that when you go to the cloud, your go-to-market timelines can shrink and shrink dramatically. So if that is the business goal that you are carrying, which we did carry for some of our HR technology initiatives, we wanted something which was readily available and the go-to-market had to be near zero. We chose a SaaS-based application on the cloud. The second is, of course, the scalability, right? Are you looking at that kind of a scale where your business would scale up 10 times in a day, drop to near zero the next? Then maybe you should look at the cloud, right? Because building that internally in your data center could become a challenge. The third is resilience, right? If you want to build resilience, then maybe the cloud is a better option. But I'm saying the reason that we chose the cloud is that if the data is born in the cloud and is going to be consumed in the cloud, if the app is going to be consumed primarily in the cloud, which is outside the Kotak Life ecosystem, in the larger ecosystem, then that is a workload that is an ideally suited workload for the cloud. So I think it is not one size fits all. It is based on the need at that time. So since 2 years, what we do is, every time there is a new requirement that comes in, we look at it, whether it should be on-prem, it should be on cloud, should it be on public cloud, private cloud, and we do that every time diligently. If the scale tilts in the favor of the cloud, we go to the cloud. If it is on-prem, then we choose on-prem. So for me, the business problem that we're trying to solve is of paramount importance.
That's a fantastic segue into this entire discussion. I want to bring in Rajesh to quickly comment on what kind of spectrum of people companies that are coming to the cloud approach it. Like what kind of clarity, like the kind of clarity that Kirti is talking about. I really wish all companies had that level of clarity. But what do you typically see?
See, with our engagement with the various segment of customers that we cater to, so we do have the urban cooperative banks or the smaller SME banks which are coming into this particular space. For them, I think the driver is that they don't have in-house skills. So for them, looking at an outsourcing model where they can consume it as a service becomes a very logical choice. Although from a capital infusion perspective, the preferred choice would be to go in for CapEx because that is something which they can control. But on the larger enterprise segment customers, specifically in BFSI, as Kirti spoke about, it is more driven by the business objectives which you may have. And the project that you are considering, whether that is entitled for cloud kind of a consumption, which Kirti was talking about, where you have transient workloads, those kind of workloads, or anything which is cloud native, is that something which can be considered for cloud? Those are certain things which are considered for the larger enterprise customers. When we talk to the mid-market customers, again, there we've seen the adoption levels are different for different set of customers. Some of them, they are saying that they would start their operations, and those are fintech companies also in that particular space, and they do consider cloud first as their strategy for any project that they want to launch. So we see a different kind of consumption pattern with different. So cloud journey has to be actually associated with the business objective, which Kirti was also talking about. And that's something which has to be kept in mind when you are looking for your cloud journey. And that's what we see, or we tell our customers also when we engage with them as a partner.
Okay, let me now dive into the kind of use cases this panel is considered, right? I want to start with Shiju. What kind of business use cases have you in the recent past considered for cloud as an option, and why, right? Can you talk through that?
Good afternoon, everyone. I think Kirti and Rajesh has very well said about the requirements and the needs of the cloud. Definitely it aligned to the business because it's more from the business objectives and the business goal. Also, it relates directly to the go-to-market strategy, how fast you want to go to market with the product. And definitely with the solutions and the consumers who are going to be consumers for that product. So, for example, the HRIS, any sort of campaign program which has to be lasted for a certain period of time, it may not be, say, for longer duration. So you may only look for uh, dive in and dive out sort of thing. So I'm saying cloud is one of the good options for that sort of setup. Analytics is the second piece wherein you want to look upon more and more features and the tools and the solutions which are available on the cloud. So you will look upon more because when you talk about the analytics, you talk about the data. And specifically when you talk about the data, you need also to look upon the storing space out over there. So definitely you would like to have something scalable and flexible also, wherein if you want to shrink it out, you should be able to shrink it out without having much of capex involved into that. So definitely analytics is one of the key piece which we as a rating agencies look upon as a cloud to rely on, because that's the one of the extendable model where we can look upon different tools and the solutions available on the cloud on the fly. Apart from that, marketing campaigns all runs on the cloud. Supportive functions, HRIS, financial ERPs, everything goes on the cloud. Definitely now the core applications also getting moved onto the cloud, given the modernizations are also happening within the newer applications, minus the legacy, because till this time, legacy was one of the part which we will never be able to move it out on the cloud. Now, given with the modernizations, all the applications are getting out onto the cloud. Second, as a business unit, we don't want to keep data center maintenance at our level. So that's the one thing which we always want to move out, looking for refresh every 5 years, asset life cycle. So I'm saying that's the one thing which is also becoming very big use case internally to look upon a cloud and rely completely on the partners to manage the infrastructure for you. So that's a few use cases what comes on my mind.
Thank you, Shiju. Let me bring in Dr. Suresh. Dr. Suresh, do you have any recent examples where we can, maybe go in a little bit deeper, specifically on either analytics or any of your use cases that you've recently considered cloud for?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity with you all today. It's a great gathering, and again we could see the peers again. So it's a more positive keeps hope for us to prepare ourselves of the happenings on the market. Getting into the question very clearly, if you see why similar cloud, why suddenly it is having such a big boom, which is part of the market, and which if you recollect, people like us, we focus more on rural India. We had enough issues like having connectivity issues, electricity issues, and resource availability was a major issue. Now we tend to get into the kind of model where the transformation is moved from corporate digital to customer digital. So far, touchwood, maximum focus was more on the corporate digital, where everybody was focusing more to keep the stakeholders and the corporate trying to deliver that whatever they have and trying to get connect with the commercial and finance trying to do it. During COVID and all, people realized a lot more to find every customer is going to be a corporate and technology is going to revolve on the customer to treat them as a corporate. So that's where the technology trying to build and trying to get enabled as much as to get engaged with them. Even as a finance company earlier, we used to go just get a finance just to do some business and come back. Now we have created a strategy to get engaged with them for his lifelong and trying to get as much as more closer towards the customer to do business accordingly with them. So when you try to drill down, we found something called earn to pay model, make the customer to earn so that he can pay for us. So where it starts, like can we create something called not just a technology of public cloud or a private cloud, create something like a community cloud where the customer can bridge in through the dealers, brokers, agents, where they can try to manipulate whatever best they can do and the customer can get best out of it. So community cloud was a trend which is coming very high and trying to get as much as more from the customer angle, more from the mediators, especially dealers, brokers, agents. They are able to try to fix it out on that. So for example, if you see as a automobile, generally Maruti dealers sell Maruti vehicles, Mahindra dealers sell Mahindra vehicles was something prior to COVID. Now what has happened is they want to keep their customers with them, they want to engage the customers with them. Even a Maruti customer is looking for a two-wheeler, even a two-wheeler customer is looking for a Maruti or Mahindra, they would want to do the business because the customer is with them. They can't go out and do more transaction physically and try to convert it. They want to use a community cloud and try to build it, where the customer is getting benefited. It breaks down the kind of mindsets which was prior to COVID, as if somebody will do only this business. Now it has moved to community cloud, where anybody can fetch it out and any service can be made available so that they can take it out. It starts from finance, it starts from insurance, starts from asset management, starts from gold loan and personal, and trying to elaborate to create an earning for them so that he is able to pay back to us. So it's an earn to pay model which was evolved more on that and trying to build part of it. And when you try to see the kind of corporate digital moving towards a customer digital, this all those things, whichever the peripherals you call it as the add-on technologies, which has made simple and made available to them, and let the customer decide, let the dealers decide, so that that can be made available to them. Even during this distinct critical situations, people are able to connect and they are able to at least get those things what they are trying to get part of it. Back to you, Mr. Murli.
This is a very interesting and very different use case compared to I think most of the other folks in the panel. I think we should probably revisit this whole the remote accessibility and where the cloud fits in there. Let me bring in Amit. Amit, I'm pretty sure you're dealing with a lot of data related use cases. It'll be great if you can talk through some of those. And what challenges do you see in terms of being able to use the cloud options easily? Because while we can talk about the fact that there's large data processing that's available in the cloud, it's also not easy for you to move the data, which is probably already sitting in your secure DC and stuff like that. So could you talk through a little bit of those use cases, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rajesh. And I have heard the panelists, and what everybody understand. There's there's no lift and shift kind of a thing that you can take your application to the cloud itself. Right? You have to make them cloud itself, and that what SBI have been working upon for last couple of years, so that we should be able to leverage the strength of cloud computing and the storage what is being provided by the cloud. Now the challenge is the standardization is missing on the different cloud provider, right? So you have got a AWS and then you have multiple of these. So we cannot be kind of stuck with a single provider till the time standardization comes into, because I want to use the facilities for all the cloud provider and then how well we should be able to use it. And having said that, if you see we are a young bank, 214 years here, a small base of 760 million accounts and 421 million customers. So there's no second example like State Bank of India all across the world itself. And so our problems and our we do not say them as problem. We say them as the kind of opportunity what we have. I would tell you one of the opportunity when it comes for kind of servicing all this PMJGBY kind of payments which have to go to farmers and to other people, etc. The amount is very huge. The number of people are very huge, and you have to do it in kind of few hours time. It's not like this that you can keep on doing that transaction for a few days itself, right? So if you have to send the subsidy to 45 crores people, then it has to be done in a day's time. And wherein we have got a scalable system wherein we can do it. But as you would see all such things would keep on increasing. That is the subsidy part of it, which we are already having. If you see the other part of the story, you have got a video KYC being done by the all the banks itself. Now, a video file is not a small file, right? How much of a DC storage you are going to put in? Consider it that the regulation need to keep it for 7 years. You have to find out a way wherein you should be able to have your storage. Otherwise, your DC, we are running how many number of DCs, right? So multiply it by 2 in another 2 years' time, right? And that is the amount of video, because BKYC would happen for a certain set of people either every year, or either 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, right? Every bank have got their own. So that you would see that one way or another, we have to embrace the cloud. Every bank have got its internal cloud running on some of the VMs itself from wherever they have resourced those VMs. But public cloud would become a reality, and some of the banks have started taking steps towards it. You have seen them in the news. We already have formed a company itself, right, for a blockchain itself with some of the large banks. 11 banks are partnered to it. So it's called banking Banks Blockchain Company Limited, something like that, wherein we are going to experiment onto LCs to start with for a blockchain implementation. And blockchain have got a great example. And you cannot run a blockchain if you have to have a kind of a number of transactions which you are trying to bring on blockchain. Now, if you start building your DCs and DRs for such kind of a thing, you would end up, first of all, the DC and DR automation is not there, right? So you have to find out how you should be able to keep your system up and running 24/7. The better part of the story is that if you want to get onto a bandwagon for a blockchain kind of implementation, and we have been very passionate about it. We have started it a couple of years earlier. That time we were unable to bring in a lot of banks onto the same platform. Now that's why we have made a new company altogether, right? So that and 11 banks are part of it. So which means this is going to be a success. The first use case is LCs, but you can keep on talking of multiple use cases which would be implemented through that forum itself. And that way we are considering very seriously in a couple of quarters time. Most of the banks have to take a call how to use the public cloud going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit. The last part of this particular section I want to talk about is, see, today there's a lot of discussion about processing unstructured data. Like today we collect a lot of documents, especially in BFSI. There's a lot of document collection. There's a lot of analytics that needs to run off it. Not all of them are structured data. I want to hear from both Kirti and Rajesh about, it is definitely the case that today cloud has better tooling in terms of processing large scale unstructured data, especially. And the number of ML models that you can run is clearly not something that every company will want to build muscle on its own. So maybe we'll start with Kirti first. Kirti, how do you think about this problem statement? If it's coming up today in your organization, how do you deal with this? And if cloud is the way to go, and how do you think about moving from point A to point B?
So on the data, two things. Okay, one is the structured data, and we when we started building our data warehouse, rebuilding our data warehouse about a year ago, we again evaluated the cloud for that, which is structured data purely. We said it is better to remain on-prem because the data is created in the data center, consumed in the organization, right? So there is no need and no point in moving it to the cloud. But unstructured data, and Amit mentioned videos. So we built a collaboration tool of our own for our advisors. In addition to employees, we have about 100,000 advisors who actually go and sell life insurance. And they were really finding it difficult when the pandemic hit us to contact customers. So we built a very simple video conferencing app for them. And I was very clear that I didn't want to bring it into the data center for two reasons, okay? One is we never had a video app within the data center. So I did not want to carry the video traffic in the data center. I said I will not be able to manage. Two is, of course, we don't know the usage, right? 100,000 agents on one day, maybe 1,000 will use, and the next day nobody will use. And three is, of course, the volume of the videos, right? And Amit did touch upon it. So absolutely for the cloud. Now, when you talk of analytics of unstructured data, apart from the tooling, right? And tools are available aplenty. The other advantage is today you can try a tool, tomorrow you could use something else, right? If you build it in your data center, you go the CapEx way, then it would be difficult for you. Two is also the compute that is required, right? And sometimes you just want to do a POC, you just want to do analysis one time, not worth bringing it in the data center. So absolutely a very, very good use case for the cloud, and which is where we are using it. Over to you, Burhan.
Rajesh, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think more than structured and unstructured data, one more thing which we have to look at is what is the kind of workload that we are talking of. Is it a predictable workload, or is it a transient workload that you want to deploy? And transient workload or a workload where you need umpteen scalability is where you would possibly put it on that. And what we've seen with some of the customers in the BFSI segment as well, as rightly put by Kirti, business warehouse was created in-house because that was a data which was created within the organization, consumed within the organization, so it remained there only. Where we've seen people creating analytics environment on cloud is where they're trying to create a data lake where they would have a source infusion from the unstructured data, maybe the consumer behavior information coming in from the social media that is getting combined with the data which is coming in from the subscriber database that you have within your environment. And that's where I think the technology evolution is happening on the cloud space, where they are trying to merge the business warehouse and data lake capabilities. So data warehouse and data lake capabilities being merged into a singular platform, which they are now calling it as a lake warehouse. Like on Microsoft Azure, you have a similar Databricks platform, which is nothing but a source which would have unstructured data as well as a structured data being combined and delivered as a service. So those are areas where I believe the consumption of cloud would increase. But again, every organization will have its own way of evaluating it and deploying it also. And what we've seen is, apart from these analytics environments, wherever the systems of engagements are being considered, that's where the modernization is happening within the BFSI segment, not the system of records, which is the core banking, core insurance, or anything core which is there, which is related to the data consumed by the internal stakeholder. So that may remain within the data center. Okay. So that's what we've seen with.
Got it.
Murari, can I add something here? So when we talk about data and talk about the cloud, right, it is very important for all of us to know what kind of data is going to egress from the cloud. It is very, very critical, okay, because that comes at a huge cost. So one needs to be very, very careful with
Absolutely. That. Absolutely. Actually, I'm going to segue slightly from use cases into completely from an engineering focus, right? See, I remember while I was growing up in Microsoft as an engineer, one of the things we wanted to do all the time is, you look at all the old code and you say, this is not efficient. I want to rewrite everything, right? So I want to bring in Amit and Dr. Suresh to talk about, see, there's two ends of the spectrum, right? There's the lift and shift to go to the cloud. And then there are people that say, I want to re-architect everything. Only after that, I want to move to the cloud. Can you talk a little bit about, the challenges that Amit, you might have faced moving from, there may be legacy systems, legacy code. How do you think about re-architecture from that point of view?
So, and I would touch upon this point because we have been debating about this point internally also for a very long time. What is the right time to go to a cloud? Either once we re-architect everything, then we should go, or we should, take the newer systems first and then leave the legacy old systems and to be re-architect at a later point of time. There's no right solution to this. And what we have realized that we are all new application and we are building a lot of them, right? So we are keeping, kind of a baseline that all new applications have to be cloud ready. For the older application, we have brought in a concept of a enterprise service bus in between. So we said, okay, then let's take this bus over there. So anybody who want to interact with this older system, they would interact with this bus, which is cloud ready. Right? So once you take the newer system and the cloud ready bus, then you can still potentially interact with your legacy system. Having said that, legacy systems have to be, done away with at one point of time. Most of the CVS are very old systems and you cannot keep on running those systems. So we are working on to it so that we should be able to do it. Cannot be done in a year's time or 2 years time. But at the end of the day, everybody has to upgrade it. You cannot be running old system for the sake of running it. You have seen the same thing happens to the mainframes of this world. The same thing would happen to the core banking systems of banking system because volumes are going to increase the number of. So the bottom line, what I'm trying to tell you is that all new systems are cloud ready along with the enterprise bus, which is cloud ready. And then you interact with your LOS and LLMS system, which are still a heterogeneous, disintegrated system within any bank itself. But we would see to it that the treasury part of it, SME and SME section part of it should be cloud ready as we move forward. And we have, because we are not thinking as of yesterday to beyond cloud. We have been talking of it for last couple of years itself. That's why we were able to build all such system. And there, and the concept of open banking also has been brought into picture so that, because the world is going to change with respect to which banks and which BFSI segments are able to appreciate the power of aggregators in this one, and the better the aggregator integration with your system, because no bank have got the ability to keep on, going and searching for new business. You have to integrate with new aggregators.
Yeah. Dr. Suresh, maybe this, I would like to understand whether this question applies to your line of business, which is, if a lot of your use cases are rural, did you start out in the cloud by building those, or can you talk about if this problem exists in your current world?
It's a great relevant question for us since we operate more in rural. It started with in rural, what happens, e-business is less of electronics, more of emotions. It's like, no, you have to connect with them and ensure like even the critical times, how we are able to go closer to them, engage with them, try to make part of it. So we have done a small architecture in terms of partition some 3-4 years before, which is helping us a lot more now. So what we did, we have just classified the kind of operations people do, because for me branches also, I have almost 60% of the branches has 215 kbps above, otherwise other branches do have less than 64 kbps. So we created something called on-premise data center, OPDC, where we try to integrate as much as information required for the locations till RO. So we have something called head office, zonal office, RO, regional office can access to the options of the data availability, which is more than 1 petabyte of data which is available for them to operate and try to take the business decisions. Then we move to something called enterprise cloud services, which is the second part, which will have only the monthly transactions for the month, whatever live online which is there, which has come to less than a GB. So earlier we had something called 1 petabyte data. Now I have something called MB to GB data, which is available in production, which is available in near production, and it is available in the DR also. So the setup has moved and it has created something called ECS, which is available for the dealers, brokers, agents and the customers. Since rural customers, very few people come in, otherwise maximum was operated by the dealers, brokers, agents and our people, our branch office people. The other one which we created is high density data center, HDDC, where we have created that information which they can manipulate, try to do it even at a customer level, at a branch level, branch profitability level, they try to do it, which requires a separate connectivity. So good olden days we had something called month end, we had enough speed issues because of the data which is pumping through the same infrastructure, which is now moved with cloud, without cloud, which we try to make it on-prem cloud, which we created as much as part of our skill sets, our maturity, our legacy. So which is required, because which is nothing but the customer behaviors, which you can't change just because technology is available. We have to go with that, which is part of the on-prem data center, and the ECS, which is allowing the new customers and the people who are trying to do business part of it, and they can access only the day transactions or the month transactions part of it, which is available for them across a computer. Second, we created high density data centers where they can generate and manipulate that information, whichever the latest tools available, part of Google, and trying to take online, offline, again with a less electricity, and the resource availability is also less in the rural India, which caters to all the three, and try to build part of it so that it will even give a technical glimpse how to use it, where to use it, which are the options they can do it. Based on the user login, you will get directed to their particular distance of information, try to extract the information. Back to you, Mr. Sridhar.
Thank you. So we have about 8-9 minutes left. I wanted to touch upon one topic which I think is pretty critical for anybody that's listening to this, is the whole thing around security and regulation. And I'd like to hear everybody in the panel. Maybe we'll start with Shiju first. See, one of the biggest challenges that I have faced when I was trying to do this cloud migration is how do you maintain your security profile and posture, right, across the cloud? And there's so many things that can now go wrong, right? Everything from human error to actual attacks need to be managed. And then there is, with being in BFSI, we have to worry about sensitive data, PII, and all of that, right? So, Shiju, why don't you start with that, and then we'll go over everybody in the panel.
Thank you, Murari. I think there is one myth among everyone that cloud is very secure. So I say when we work on-premise, equivalent security is what we built out here. We have to make sure that we also build it at cloud. So it's our prerogative. We will have to build it from scratch. Definitely, if you are using a SaaS services, then it's a partner's responsibility who will be building the secure premises for you. But definitely when you are looking for IaaS or any sort of services from there, it's your prerogative. You will have to build it up. Equal security, what you have, postures that you are on premise to the cloud as well. Definitely, you will have to look upon all these sort of, only the difference is that it's invisible out over there. Wherein you had the on-premise data centers, it's very much in your control, in your premise, you know what the technologies, but out when it's far, you will have to build it up, everything out over there. And good part is that you will get each and every solutions out over there. So it's a la carte model. You will have to pick it up and then you will have to buy. So it doesn't mean that if you have bought a compute or memory or storage at the cloud and you are secured. So it's just a myth. So it's something like living in an apartment. When we do live out over there, we definitely have some sort of common securities which comes as an offering to us. Say, for example, the common security guard, common societies, cameras, but definitely you'll have to build up your security doors. You will have to lock your house. You will have to protect your home. So in cloud also, you will have to do the similar way of implementations and configurations. I'm sure everyone will agree with that. That's all from my side. I'm sorry, I'm not bad throat, so I'm not able to speak much.
No, that's a great analogy. Amit, maybe you want to comment on this next, both from regulation, compliance, and how do you handle the cloud plus in-house?
So yeah, so I do agree that cloud have got security, but banks, we do deal with some of the commodity which is the most important commodity in the world, which is called money itself, right? So that's why the regulation, the security standard is a bit more stringent when it comes to BFSI segment itself. So, and that's why banks have to take care of the security aspect of things into a different realm altogether than of trying to cater or agree to what is being catered by the cloud itself. And there lies the concept of how secure is your data. That is how much secure the money is within your bank, right? And most of the banks have got standards, and we also have got, and those standards are a bit of a stringent, I would say, and which is right because we have to deal with that kind of a thing. I believe cloud providers are still learning what BFSI and why we have got those stringent standards. And I believe the more quickly they would be able to cater to those requirements of the bank, the more easily banks would be confident to start using cloud services.
Actually, Kirti, I want you to answer this, but in a slightly different flavor, which is what's keeping you up at night, with cloud or otherwise. You'll have to think through this, no matter what, right? This entire security pyramid and all that. And the weakest link seems to be a simple password leak, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, what keeps me up at night? Yes, because the fraudsters are always going to be one step ahead of us, right? They have to only look for one loophole and we have to keep plugging all of them. We don't even know where they're going to come from. So that is definitely something that keeps all of us awake at night. And more so because, I mean, there is no function today in an organization which doesn't depend on technology. Okay, even an administration function, right, will not be able to function. And I always say that you can't, I mean, when we were in the office, you couldn't even hold a meeting if Outlook was not running, right? So that is what keeps me up at night. But on the security aspect, right, what Shiju said and what Amit said is absolutely right. So what we did is, even before we decided to move any workload to the cloud, we actually understood the cloud and we built a security framework. Okay, we said, what is our security framework going to be on the cloud? Because like Shiju said, you have to, it's like creating your own data center. Okay, creating your own data center, it's just that it is in the virtual world. It is very easy to get what you want by the click of a button. But other than that, it is as complex as anything else, right?
If not more.
Yeah.
We have exactly 3 minutes left. Rajesh, I'm going to request you to, maybe answer 2 questions, if possible. One is, this whole compliance and audits as a cloud provider. How do you advise people in terms of managing that? And if you can very, very briefly touch upon, this whole bill shock that people are not really prepared for, and they don't estimate the cost of the cloud, right? So sorry, but you have to summarize it in 2 minutes.
Okay. I think from a bill shocks perspective, as Kirti was talking about, that you could get bill shocks related to egress traffic or the disk IO, which could be there. So having a framework where you get to know what is your consumption on a regular basis becomes very important. Although those dashboards are available, but across multiple cloud, in case you are consuming them, that becomes very important. So single pane of glass, both from monitoring management as well as from security compliance and regulation perspective, becomes very important. The other part which you spoke about from a BFSI segment perspective about the audits, Amit touched upon that. There are a lot of regulatory audits which need to be done, which could be from RBI, which could be from IRDI. UADI is also having those. Then you would have your internal audits also to comply to or to see that whether you're complying to the standards which are being asked for. So having a framework is important, and having a partner who understands that they have to do so many audits, physical audits or the virtual audits, or even the penetration test or vulnerability assessments from a security point of view, those should be there as part of your contract when you're working with a services provider. Because this is not what you used to do within your own data center, where some bit of it was available with you. It would again shock you because there would be a cost associated with those audits also. So it's a combination of both which has to be taken into account.
Absolutely. I think that sort of brings us, it was a great discussion, and thank you all of you sharing these insights. I'm hoping that this gave, everybody listening a lot of insights into the challenges of cloud migration and how not to get caught in the hype and instead be really fully prepared. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bhavna.
Thank you so much, Murari, for moderating it so wonderfully. Thank you to all our panelists, Rajesh, Amit, Dr. Suresh, Shiju, and Kirti for joining us and being a part of this panel discussion. Thank you once again.